Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10, broadcasting on Channels Television live from Lagos. Here are the stories making our headlines this hour. A three-story building housing the party secretariat of the All Progressives Congress in Okirika, local government area of Rivers State, is attacked by unknown gunmen. The ruling party, the PDP, the opposition APC and INEC trade words over the APC presidential candidate's certificate. 5 people are killed, 46 others injured in Yobe Potiskum GSM market attack. More than 1 million people take part in a unity march in Paris. Out of 17 people were killed during 3 days of deadly attacks in the French capital. A quick reminder here that most of our stories are on our websites, channelstv.com and on youtube.com/channelsweb. You can also visit m.channelstv.com to view live all our stories on your mobile device. It's a lot easier when you download the Channels TV app for Android, iOS and Windows phones from their respective stores. We also encourage you to interact with the Channels Eyewitness feature on our Android, iOS and Windows 8 platforms. If you have pictures or videos you'd like to share with us, tap the application on your device, swipe to reveal the Eyewitness menu and follow the instructions. 2014 will go down in Nigeria's history as a time when the production and the supply of electricity moved from public sector to private investors. Now, despite this transition, our energy correspondent Olu Phillips reports that the journey to steady supply is still in the works.
November 2014 marked a year since private operators took over power management in Nigeria. Safely put, the new Power Reform Act passed into law in 2005 to essentially privatize the sector has been achieved. That process, however completed, have thrown up more unforeseen challenges. Steady electricity supply has been linked to national productivity and a critical component for economic growth. What many did not know is that mere privatization is not an automatic ticket to steady supply. Between February and March, the country lost 800 megawatts owing to vandalism of gas pipeline.
You can't make it. Most of the little gain we make goes back on buying fuel.
I have a job, but there's no NEPA. There's no power supply since last year. This is how I will be. If I come to the workshop, I will be sleeping until the time. If I wanted to go, I would just wake up and go.
The lows in effective supply largely was attributed to shortage in gas supply. In June, while Nigerians still grappled with epileptic power, a tariff adjustment was effected, and despite several explanations by NEC as contained in MITO, this didn't go down well with many Nigerians.
Where exactly are we getting it wrong? Let them fix those areas. Is it pipeline vandalism? Is it that we're not generating enough? Is it that the dams are not enough? Is it that the gas stations are not enough? Let them put all those together and look at it. They come to a drawing table. Where exactly have we gotten it wrong? Then, from there, they begin to address. And our power sector will be a thing to laugh about.
We are already starting to carry out the overhauls that bedeviled the industry years back. We are already making plans to add capacity to the existing capacity of EGBI.
Effective service delivery is linked to an effective capture regime. So for most consumers, 2014 didn't fulfill their dreams of a payment system that is soothing. However, for the men that interface daily with them, it is in the interest of both parties to have an effective metering system.
We have a very robust metering plan that we have embarked upon right now. The investors, they secure a lot of funds, a lot of millions of dollars that will be invested in the metering.
To address some of these, the House Committee on Power visited some homegrown prepaid meters manufacturers to help galvanize patronage from the discos, but that didn't yield much fruit.
Consumers are not allowed to get meter freely, and that's most hindrances that we are facing, and that's why we could not penetrate the market. You can see the large stock of meter we have in the store. So,
when power generation hit 4,000 megawatts, that also did not translate into kilowatts capacity for homes, as transmission couldn't wheel out every power generated. Perhaps another disappointing low moment is the inability of the federal government to declare the transitional electricity market, which is meant to boost more investment and ensure accountability by operators. Sadly, several other agreements guaranteeing efficiency are still stalled pending the transitional electricity market. Some of these are the Grid Connection Agreement, Ancillary Service Agreement, Power Purchase Agreement, Gas Supply Aggregation Agreement, and Gas Transportation Agreement. For some solutions, there has to be a fast-tracking of gas revolution agenda through the promotion of gas exploration and development. At the close of the year, projections for 2015 put generation at 10,000 megawatts in the first quarter and 20,000 megawatts by year-end 2015.
What we are doing now, not only in our capacity to generate, but in our capacity also to wheel out. We have moved from gear 1 to gear 2. We are moving from gear 2 to gear 3. And very soon, we will even reach gear 5.
Having secured the 213 billion naira intervention funds, no excuses may really suffice if by the fourth quarter of the year, Nigeria still grapples with less than 15,000 megawatts of generation and supplied electricity. Olu Phillips, Channels Television News.
Let's take this conversation a little further now. I'm being joined here on the News at 10 by Mr. Olabode Showomi. He is an engineer by profession and energy expert by day. You're welcome to the News at 10.
Good evening, and thanks for having me.
Okay, so privatization was supposed to be the magic word, for the Nigerian power sector in 2014, yet it has failed to steady power supply in the country. How is that possible?
Well, first of all, privatization is a step of many steps, and one of the things that has happened is that there's a knowledge gap in terms of having expectations managed by those who are supposed to be recipient of it. And then there's another thing, is the internetworking of the stakeholders who effectively make the system work. By stakeholders, I'm talking about anybody who power affects, which includes everybody, from the finance industry to even the consumers themselves. I mean, there's so much ignorance among consumers. Sometimes when you listen to certain people, you wish you had supported abortion. Now, you hear, and it is important that the consumers actually know and aware of what happens in the industry so that the discourse can be raised to a higher level so that they can effectively task the people who are investing. People feel comfortable just finger pointing at government. Government should be accused, but we also need the industry to move forward.
It sounds to me, Mr. Showomi, that you're saying that people's expectations are raised too high with the whole privatization thing.
I don't think it's people's expectation. I think it's the circumstances that led to the privatization.
They fell short of our expectations.
Yes, exactly. The people who have bought, who have invested, I believe they have media people, they have people who are supposed to communicate with the outside world. One of the things they need to do is to actually involve more people in terms of the realities of their day-to-day activities and how they can move from one phase to the other in such a way that people are actually aware of what is happening and not just thinking that simply because simply because there's a new management, suddenly everything changes. It's still the old NEPA staff, even though they are privatized. It's still the old infrastructure. It's still, a lot of things are still as they were.
So what really was missing, from this power reform? What was the key thing that we needed to have had?
I think, like I said, the reform and the privatization is a step to many steps. We have certain limitations with our distribution. In fact, when we talk about the electricity system, we're talking about generation, we're talking about distribution, we're talking about transmission, we're even talking about communication, we're talking about other things that make the whole system to work. Currently, as I'm made to understand, in terms of the distribution, the grid, as we stand, the last impact on it was in 1987, I believe. And as such, it has certain capacity in terms of what it can transmit. There's losses, there's attenuation and losses, which means that once electricity is produced, even beyond the capacity of what it can transmit, nobody can benefit from it.
Oh. And
that is a clear fact. So we can produce 10,000 gigawatts, but if the thing can carry a maximum of 4.3 or 4.5, as they say,
it will still fall short.
They will still fall short.
And gas is still an issue, right?
Well, gas is an issue, not because we don't have gas, but because there are infrastructural challenges. It's like we talk about water available in the sea, but none to drink. There's a process for which the gas needs to be made available to whoever is going to use it, and then moving on forward. But what is also important is that gas is not the only possible feedstock that can be used to generate. I mean, we use water in Kanji Dam, but there's also coal. There's also solar.
And these are areas that we haven't fully explored.
Yes, the Energy Commission of Nigeria spends a significant amount of money for solar energy every year in terms of projects that they do. But you see a lot of all those projects in terms of boreholes, in terms of street lights. Perhaps certain challenges should be given to them, and where they'll be made to look at generating, even if it's 200 megawatts, even if it's 10 megawatts, and they'll focus on certain areas, whether it is rural areas, whether it is small estates, whether it's communities. And when I said the financial industry as one of the stakeholders to help, they need to go beyond rent sinking and just providing money. They need to provide consultancy solutions to SMEs who are really the engine drivers of any industry and any economy, such that they will employ and such that they will make the industry to grow. And at the end of the day, the issues will now be what is commonplace to everybody.
I guess all of these reasons you've given explains why we have 10 new power plants and sold with the capacity for over 5,000 megawatts, and yet we still do not have enough power supply.
I mean, that's just one. I mean, there are probably a lot of other issues, but definitely we have these. Even if all the systems and everything was working, the fact that they cannot be transmitted means you simply can't get it.
A grave situation we're in. You paint the picture a lot clearer for us now. Thank you so much, Olawode Sowunmi, an energy expert and also an engineer by profession, who joined me on the news at 10 to discuss Nigeria's power sector and the supply and the generation and distribution of electricity in 2014. And speaking of communities with 90% of their water unfit for human consumption, residents of Kwalita village in the Federal Capital Territory are facing a growing water crisis. And the lack of potable water in this village in Gwagwalada Area Council has resulted in the death of several children and adults, especially last year. Our community report tonight focuses on the daily struggle for clean water in Kwalita community in the nation's capital city. Our correspondent Gloria Omezoke is our guide.
Now you're talking.
Hannatu Duniya comes to the stream every day with her baby strapped to her back, like several other women, to do their chores and even bath. In broad daylight, they only wash, fetch water, and for others, they simply quench their thirst on the spot. On the other side, Fulani herdsmen bring in their cattle to drink as well. Well, it seems almost unbelievable, but human beings and animals use the same water to drink and wash. And what is clear here is their cry for the government and politicians to provide just a borehole for them to live a safer and cleaner life here. Qualita, on the outskirts of the nation's capital, is among many communities in the nation's capital without potable water. Currently, 90% of Qualita's main source of water is unfit for drinking, and a disease which breaks out periodically owing to its consumption causes little children here to urinate blood. This has been the case for many years.
In the process of coming to the river, you will have been inhaling the odor. And when you are even taking it to your mouth, you will know that you are almost drinking poison. But because there is no option, that is the only way out. So they keep drinking it. Saw parents who lost their kids, although they were skeptical about sharing their experiences. But the teachers have sad experience. So they wanted something that could be done badly.
People drown in the water every other time, and we're still forced to drink it anyway. We want help from the authorities.
Lack of potable water is just one among numerous other challenges like lack of proper infrastructure and education.
Well, this is Qualita Village here in Gwagwalada local government area, where we have well over 600 children, most of whom do not go to school, and they join every day in the constant battle for clean water.
Should really do at this point. I spoke with one of the teachers who told me that bad road and lack of infrastructure are obstacles to the smooth run of the Universal Basic Education program in this community.
This school has been established since 1974 or 76, and I can tell you we have not produced or have more than 6 graduates from this school, 6 sets. They don't have school uniform, they wear chartered houseware, they don't have shoes, they don't have books.
The younger brother to the village head, Garba Saki, complains about neglect in spite of the many promises by the government and most especially politicians during elections. 23-year-old Ismaila, who is already a father of 4, is clearly aggrieved about the situation.
The day when the vote come, we go vote them and let them go win the election. They're going to say they're going to bring clinic, borehole, roads, electric, school. After when they enter the council, we're not going to see them again.
The list of communities where the problem is most acute extends from area councils like Gwagwalada, Abaji and Kuje in the nation's capital. A workable strategy by the government and fulfillment of promises by politicians would perhaps be the way forward to saving thousands of lives in Qualita and other communities like this across the country. Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
Etisalat, now you're talking.
Still ahead on the news at 10, the Lagos State Governor Babatunde Fashola signs a total of 489.69 billion naira 2015 approved budget into law. Please stay with us.